Welcome to the T2 Hubcast with me, Spencer Locker.
And me, James Cooper.
Morning, James.
Morning, Spencer.
Are you well?
Very good. Very good.
Now you got your coffee sorted.
Got my coffee sorted, and what Tracy Roberts was trying to do to me with the amount of coffee to sugar ratio, well, we're nearly there, I think.
So I'm assuming that the coffee to sugar ratio was not satisfactory.
Some people say it could have been a little bit of complacency on Tracy Robertson's Tracy Roberts' point of view.
Oh, right, okay. So that's an interesting theme.
Not necessarily too happy with that. We'll have to have a chat about that in a monthly review.
A monthly review.
Monthly review.
Okay. Interesting word though, complacency.
Yeah, I think it crops up, or it can become apparent in quite a lot of different situations, especially at work.
Right.
Where, well, even in some people do it in relationships as well, but we're not relationship counsellors, Spencer, are we?
No, but we can always explore that.
We can have a little chat about that. My point is being, even just when we talk about people and things that we have to do on a daily basis, do we start to get, or does complacency start to creep in? And what that sort of looks like. And it is more, this is podcast of chat, by the way. This is me and Spencer having a topic. It could come to blows, but we're trying to keep ourselves quite professional at the start. And then hopefully you get into and some people can get some real links from this.
Okay. So when we start considering sort of complacency as a thing, what does it look like to different people in different walks of life and in different certain circumstances? I mean, if we start talking about complacency being the enemy of performance.
Right, okay.
So if we start thinking about, because everybody who listens to this, they have different positions. Some people are high-level managers, C-suite. Some people are middle managers, supervisors. Hey, some people are producers. And this isn't just necessarily in industry, but this is in business. This is in all sorts of things. So when we start thinking about performance, we're talking about optimal performance or high-level performance or peak performance, or whichever one you want to adhere to. Complacency for me, and again, you might want to disagree. Don't lean across the table.
I'm just taping my gloves up, everybody.
Yeah. But for me, complacency is like, I'll do. Okay. Oh, do I really have? Nah, I can't be asked doing that. So I'm not going to push myself. Might be in the gym. Yeah.
Can't be bothered to do that last set.
So now actually, when you said that when you said I can't be bothered to do that set, that complacency thing, and I'm not trying to go off topic, but now that starts bringing in things like mindset, motivation, and discipline.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, definitely agree with that.
But anyway,
I agree. I agree with that, Spencer. And if we start to think about and we can talk to the mass initially, and then people that are listening to this going, "Oh, right, that makes a little bit of sense," because in my team, I've got people that can sometimes absolutely nail their job, and I'm so happy, and they've done things to the standards that are not only met, but they've actually gone above and beyond. Yeah. Which is we like that saying, but. Is it then changing to that little bit of complacency, not necessarily sneaking in, but is it being allowed to creep in? And I'm not saying by any stretch of the imagination that people want this to happen, but it's not necessarily what they don't want to happen. So they're actually getting to a stage where I might have been triggered, I might have been upset, there might be something totally in personal and professional life that might be affecting that task that they have to do. And for example, if you think about some of the day-to-day tasks that we have to guide people through and what they do on a daily basis, that becomes some of the tasks that they know they can do. They can do it with their eyes shut. And the point is that they'll try and do it with their eyes shut. Not necessarily physically, but mentally, having that mindset like we spoke about and being able to stay engaged and keep switched on and not let complacency creep in, then all of a sudden that standard is maintained. Now, if you imagine somebody that, and we talk about football all the time, Spencer, and it's, when you start to assume things from a football point of view, imagine if your centre-back has then run forward and there's now loads of space in behind the defensive unit. Imagine if this is a work line where somebody has dropped off, left a gap, and then next minute there's a lot more pressure on everybody else in the organisation or in the team to still defend the goal, complete the process, achieve the target, meet the standard, whatever it is. I just think that it happens more regularly than we think. And I know for me, and obviously I've been at T2 for over a year now, I can see that I'm really wanting to keep the standards of my work. And if I haven't gone through this process of, right, get yourself set, give yourself the time, make sure you're ready. I just don't know if everybody else has that process. I don't know if everybody goes through that same thought process to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure at least, absolute minimum, I am absolutely on point. Because if I'm not, I can't blame everybody else around me because it's my fault. If something else out of my control goes wrong, okay, I can deal with that. I can reflect on that and maybe think about what I might be able to do now. What have I compromised just by getting it done? But when I know that I've had my chat with myself, I've got myself there nice and early, even with traffic, even with the doors not being open or whatever it is, I've made sure that I've done absolutely everything I can to get to the point of no mistakes.
Okay.
And still at the end of that, Spencer, as we all know, that can still happen. And and everybody that's listened to this point here is that you can still go over and above and there still might be a mistake.
Yeah, okay.
Which I'm not saying that's complacency. What I'm saying is that's about preparation. When you get into the environment and somebody's still doing things, or on that, we use the product line, for example. So you've got the raw ingredients that come in at the beginning, and you've got the product that ends up at the end. And all the different stages that we've seen, especially with one of the companies we work with that are very much, they love a process, but understanding that what comes in at the beginning, and if everybody does their job to the standard in the way that they should, without complacency sitting, they get the outcome.
Yeah,
they get the product.
Okay, so what we're looking at there, if I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly, is you know what is in your sphere of control, and you know what isn't in your sphere of control, and if you adhere to your process, which, as you said then, I don't know whether everybody else does the process. I think everybody does, but it's not necessarily the same process. It'll be their process to guarantee their outcome, if you like. But I think the complacency bit is do I really need to do that? Potentially even, what's the worst that could happen if I don't do that?
How many times across your career have you asked yourself that question? I know I don't need a figure. 30, 33, 34, 35, 6 times.
Right, okay. I'll put my hands up and say I've done it a few times.
Okay.
But that then suggests that we need to understand why that was, because complacency is a choice, but is it a conscious choice? And what are the causes behind making that choice?
Okay.
So, for me, when we start thinking about complacency, as you sort of alluded to in what you were saying there, it might be the run of the mill, the rigmarole, actually, this is a process I've done for so many times I can do it with my eyes shut.
Yeah.
But if you do it with your eyes shut, are you really going to get the best outcome? So as you were saying, when we were talking about it before, when you're sort of looking at it and you're going, right, I'm sat down in front of a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet needs to be completed, but the payoff is, if I don't pay full attention and I don't apply myself appropriately, then am I putting the correct piece of information into that spreadsheet? And you sort of think, but the thing is,
what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yeah, actually, from your perspective, probably not much. However, further down the line, because that information put into the spreadsheet is going to be used for something. So an inaccuracy there is going to lead to an inaccuracy, or potentially a bigger inaccuracy further down the line. So your complacency, what's the worst that could happen? I mean, come on, let's call it as we see it. Mr. Chow, but did you die? Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So
nobody died.
Yeah. So when we start thinking about complacency, yes, we need to, I suppose we need to recognize that it happens, but we need to understand why that could potentially happen. Why is it that you are distracted or you're not prioritizing the standards as well as you could? There's a number of different things there, but I think that the kicker is why. Why is that the case here and now?
Now, we could look at this from an unconscious motivators point of view. We could make links to print, and the guys, everybody that's listened to the podcast and listened to it for a while will understand what we say by print and the psychometric testing that we do at T2. My point is, if my unconscious motivators succeed and achieve, does that make me less prone to becoming complacent, or is that just who I am and sometimes I can still drop the ball?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because again, when we start thinking about If you want to come at it from an unconscious motivators perspective, let's just, as you sort of talked about your 3 to succeed and achieve. But we also know that 3s, when they're in their shadow self, have the capacity to cut corners. So now what we're looking at is we're achieving an outcome, but is it necessarily the right outcome? Is it as good as it could be? But we also need to realise that now we're looking at shadow self, we're not looking at best self. So why are you in shadow?
So what we're really starting to get into then, Spence, is trigger management.
Yeah.
And is complacency play a pretty big part in that? Now, we don't know everybody's trigger because it could come from anywhere.
Yeah.
But understanding that the impact it could have, if you're not aware of these already, it might be an idea to have a little look at what really annoys you and think about what impact that then has on your professional processes, people, the way that you work, or some of the projects that you've gone on at work. So if we start to think about complacency from a health and safety point of view, from a policy point of view, that impacts. And like you said, nobody died, but in some situations, and I can remember some work we did over the bridge with one of the ports, and it was, if they don't follow, if there is complacency that sets in that environment, somebody could get ripped off the edge of the dock, and then that's it, bye.
Well, yeah, we do a lot of work with a number of engineering companies, particularly in the local area, where it's we're talking about working safely. And again, when we start talking about working safely, we're not talking about health and safety, because everywhere, particularly these engineering firms, they have very robust health and safety processes and procedures. What we're talking about is you might have a robust health and safety process, but complacency is, do people actually pay that much attention to it? So let's say, for the sake of argument, somebody's working at heights. Let's say that to part of the company policies, if you're working at heights, let's say you're going to be going up a ladder, you have to have a body harness on, and you have to clip onto a safety rail. Yeah. So if somebody's doing that, if they're they've got these 2 clips where you're going up a ladder and you've got to unclip here and then clip onto the next one, and then but somebody might say, well,
I've only got to walk 10.
Yeah, I can't. What's the worst that could happen? You know what? I'm a big boy. I know what's going on. Sorry. I'm a big person. I know what's going on.
Yeah. I'm a big person. I know what's going on.
Yeah. But the thing is, that complacency then is, you know what? I'll tell you. So I used to do a little bit of tutoring before I worked here. And one of the things we were working with level 1 students. Yeah. So these are kids, young people between the ages of 16 and 18 who've come out of school, and now we're doing basic engineering. Yeah. So we're doing all sorts of real basic stuff. And one of the things we've got to talk about is ladder safety, right? Okay. And I do a whole period on ladder safety. Yeah. Now, if you can imagine these kids, these young people from the estates around Hull, and they're all sat there in the puffer jackets and the caps. Yeah. Yeah. To be honest with you, they were great kids.
I love a puffer jacket, by the way.
No, but they were really cool kids. I really liked them. But to try and enthuse somebody about the advantages of ladder safety, how to use a ladder properly, there might be people actually sat here at the moment going, how hard could it be? Actually, so I won't go into the full where's and wherefore.
Let's do a ladder workshop.
Yeah, but went through this particular ladder piece over a period of days, and we've got kids sat there going, well, how hard could it be? I mean, well, do you really need to sort of make sure that the stairs are extended so that do we really need to do that? And I had to turn around and said, look, YouTube is full of people who the only reason they are on YouTube is because they didn't do that. And it went wrong and somebody was filming it and now they're on YouTube. Yeah. So when we start talking about complacency, it's a case of knowing that you've got to pay attention. There's a reason why this thing is here, whether it's health and safety, whether it's a process or a procedure, whether it's a policy, whatever it is, these things are put in place for a reason. Yeah. And then when you get complacent, you don't do your due
diligence.
You don't do what you're supposed to do. Yeah. What's the worst that could happen? And it could be that a decimal point's in the wrong place, or it could be that somebody's fallen off a step ladder and broken the neck.
And imagine that. And this comes into maybe some of the, hopefully, Spence, we can start to give people that little bit of a, when we start speaking about the why and going into that detail, is that I want to be able to give people just some little tips, or maybe just one way that if they listen to this and they listen to our story and they can say, you know what, I really strive I'm trying to develop my career. I'm trying to stay in the zone, if you like, that performance zone that we talk about all the time. I want to take more accountability. I want a little bit more responsibility at work. But a couple of weeks ago, I made a mistake. And for whatever reason, I just got a little bit complacent. And and what could I do to help myself to then get myself back on track and say, this is what I'm going to do. Now, for me, mine is set yourself a standard, get yourself into a habit of going, this is what I'm going to do. This doesn't drop. These are my non-negotiables. And that's a conversation, everybody, that I have with myself to say, look, don't assume that you're never going to make a mistake ever again in your career, because you are, idiot. Try and be professional at all times. That's in all the different environments that we work in and all the environments that everybody's listening to this is in. And I think part of me is do your best. So that when I talk about doing my best, then I'm trying to hold myself to that standard, or I'm trying to keep myself on point with this, where I can see my goal. And like I say about my 3, my unconscious motivator, if I'm trying to achieve what I want to achieve or do things the way that I want to do them, and you can see my hands going off like mad Ian Elspeth because I'm getting right into it, but understanding that that's where I want to be. And if I'm going to compromise that, and this could be personal and professional, is that if you're going to compromise one thing, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? So if you're staying up a little bit later, or you're having that argument, or whatever it is, or you get into that conflict and it's not a healthy conflict, and you bring it straight back into that work environment, and then you go sit at your desk and you miss some information from that spreadsheet, or you get back onto the line and you miss part of your process. My question would be, preparing yourself well enough.
Okay, yeah.
Or are you giving yourself a little bit more? Are you giving yourself enough support? Yeah. And I'm not a psycho, by the way. I don't just talk to myself on a daily basis, but I do. But understanding that I have those conversations, I try, keyword try, big 3 letters, big word, because I'm going to try and do those things. Does it always work? No.
The next T2 Leadership Retreat will take place on the 7th to the 9th of May 2024. To book your place on the ultimate leadership development experience from the People Performance People, or for more information, please visit www.trans2performance.com.
I don't think you're the only person who talks to themselves. I think everybody's got an inner monologue.
Yeah.
I think there's people out there that are their own biggest critics.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that. There'll be a reason for that. However, when you sort of bring around a conscious recognition that, you know what, I made a mistake. It may be that you were complacent and you made a mistake. I think that, well, primarily with yourself, you've got to understand why you made that mistake. Why were you complacent at this thing? So here we go. When we start thinking about that, we could look at it from a number of different perspectives. However, let me look at it. Let me propose this. Were you unconsciously complacent or consciously distracted? Or sorry, the other way around. Were you consciously complacent or were you unconsciously distracted? So did you sort of think to yourself, well, I can't really be arsed doing this, or I'm not paying much attention, or were you unconsciously distracted in the concept of I'm prioritizing something else above this? And when I say that, it might be that you've had a bust up with your partner. Or it might be that you've got a serious illness in the family, or there's something else. So I'm not saying that you are unconsciously distracted in the sense that you're prioritizing something else consciously. I'm sort of saying something's going on that's it's too noisy between your ears. Yeah. So
that conscious distraction or unconscious distraction could be something positive as well.
Yeah.
So we've got a new member of our family who's come in.
Right.
Little lad, and he's now, everybody's thought is around how is he, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And is that another level of distraction that not necessarily a negative one, is actually quite a positive one?
Right.
Does it have the same effect? I'd say yes, because you're not still focused on what you should be doing. Your mind's somewhere else.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There can be a number of different reasons for that. For me, have you ever heard of a concept called Zanshin? Zanshin.
Talk to me.
Zanshin. It is it's my understanding that it's an ancient Japanese warrior mindset.
Right.
So the sort of the phrase that sort of encapsulates Zanshin is when the battle is over, tighten your helmet, right?
Okay.
So just trying to put this into a bit of a thing, right? So can I ask you, because you're a bit of a golfist, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely.
You like to swing the bats.
I'm trying to play today, but just slinging it down.
Right, okay. So let me ask you a question. You've got your golf clubs in your car?
Yeah.
You got your golf shoes in your car?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Are they clean?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
100%.
Why are your golf shoes and your golf clubs clean? Why are they clean?
Because I want to make them look nice.
Really?
It's for optimal performance, Spencer.
Right. Right, let me ask you this. When did you clean them? After you used them last?
After I used them last, yeah.
Okay.
I clean them as I'm going round.
Right, okay. So what we're talking about here from a samurai perspective, from a Zanshin perspective, is when the battle is won, you don't sit back, cross your legs and start smoking a cohiba.
Right.
Yeah? Okay. What you do is you tighten your helmet, you go, right, okay, the battle might have been won,
Ready for
or
the
the battle
next
might is over, but the next battle's coming.
Right, okay.
Yeah? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on what I need to do. So you clean your golf clubs.
Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, a samurai wouldn't clean his golf clubs.
No.
But
He
but
might
yeah,
do. He might play
well,
golf.
you never know. You never know. But yeah, so this is the concept. This is a self-discipline thing. Whereas, so this particular thing here is done. So what I need to do is I need to focus on the mundane, little boring things to be able to make sure that the next battle comes and I've got a fighting chance of winning that.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's put that into a work context from well, let's leave it to them. Leave it to the people that listen to this. What are the things that once you feel as if you're done for the week, so it could be potentially be on a Friday afternoon.
Yes.
What is it that you would then prepare for the Monday?
Well, yeah, you could say that. Or you could think to yourself, actually, it's Monday lunchtime and I'm done for the week. Yeah?
Right.
Because you know what? I've had a bust up with my girlfriend. Yeah, this has happened. That's happened. I've gone overdrawn. I haven't paid my credit card off. I forgot to pay a phone bill or something like that. So all these things going on, you haven't got the discipline to actually focus on the minutiae of what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah?
Yeah.
So now it's having the Zanshin thing of going, all these things going on. I could be sitting down and being distracted. I could be relaxing. I could be taking that opportunity. Or am I being conscious that this is happening? So for me to actually be effective and perform optimally, I need to really double down. Recognize that you're being distracted and be disciplined enough to go, right, I need to put that to one side. I can think about that later. I can think about it at lunchtime. Yeah. I can think about it after work. But right here and right now, I need to be able to focus on the little things. So it might be sharpening the pencil. Yeah. It might be cleaning your desk down. It might be actually making sure that you're getting the right amount of information for you to be able to do your job so that you can pass it on to the next person. So it's having that discipline to be able to be not complacent.
And I think, I like that. I'm going to use that, Spencer, if that's okay.
Of course.
Now, I'm making links to the attributes from Richard Vinny as well.
Right, okay.
From what you just
very
mentioned
good.
There. Because that compartmentalization of this is what we're going to do. These two don't affect each other. I'm going to deal with this now. Then I can put that to a side and move on to the next thing. Again, is it easy to just have that chat with yourself and go, look, I'm going to clean my sword. I'm going to clean my golf clubs. I'm going to do the stuff that I don't necessarily want to do, but I'm going to go box it. This is where I'm going to go. That's going to be that. That's the this. Now I can move on.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be easier for some people than others.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the rich tapestry of life. But we can all try and move that dial just a little bit.
Dial it up.
Yeah. So for some people, it comes really naturally. It will be a natural attribute.
Yeah.
But to other people, they're really going to have to focus and go, right, I need to make a conscious effort to do this. Because it might be that one of the reasons why you're in a bit of a slump is because you are habitually complacent.
Yeah.
And you know what? You might hate yourself for it. You might be sitting there thinking, well, why aren't I as successful as other people? Why is it that the standard of my work doesn't achieve it? Why do they find it so easy? Why is it that they seem to be able? So now what you're looking at is things that you can't control, which is other people. Yeah. But the thing is, it's dead easy to do that because now that makes your complacency. Well, I don't really need that. Why should I? Because I ain't going to get to their standard.
Okay. So the last bit I think we should talk about, Spence, is about bounce back ability.
Okay.
So that when we start to feel as if this is coming in, we're starting to see a little bit of complacency. Now we talk about from a unconscious motivators point of view, we talk about bounce back quick or recover quickly. So if you can, you realize it, you recognize it, Nope. Nip it in the bud, draw a line in the sand, whatever you want to call it, and try and react and respond or
regain
a level of control.
Okay. Yeah.
So for me, and this is one of the things that I talk about in all the workshops, when I start, because it really digs to me, complacency bit, because that means I'm dropping the ball, and I hate it. And it's normally because I care about what other people are doing as well. And if I don't do my bit, it then affects them, then that, and then domino effect. So let's talk about bounce back ability. And again, that loose term could be called something else.
I think we're going to come to blows here, but carry on.
Yeah. But understanding that if I recover quickly and I get to a point where, you know what, I'm taking the hit. I've been to the point where I've made a mistake, and I'm now taking control of what I can. And that ABC technique that we preach, and I, to be fair, I live it, and I know you do as well. Well, what can we control? Are we accepting in that situation? Are we increasing the amount of oxygen flowing around our brains by breathing? A, B, and then C, control what you can control. Now, if that's for everybody in the first time you've heard it, then get yourself in touch with T2 and we can go through it in real life. But understanding that is something that is really, really difficult when you have never done it before and you're in a new environment, or you've maybe made a totally new mistake and you've never had this experience before. But understanding that I'm going to be in that situation and make sure that I do the best I can to get back online, to get back in the game, to get back into the process and to achieve the goal. But what are the things that you achieve, that you try and control and that you try and bounce back into?
Yeah, I get that. I do. I get that. And I think that some people will find that easier than others. However, I'm not saying it's wrong by any stretch of the imagination.
Here we go.
I think there's elements of it that are very, very right. But one of the things that you were sort of alluding to there is that bounce back ability, moving back to our level as quickly as we can.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, am I right there?
Moving back to the higher level. So
yeah.
I'm saying that we drop down and then we pick ourselves back up, get back off the floor, get back off the canvas, whatever it is, and go again
as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is the bit that I disagree with, but only from a personal perspective.
Okay.
Because what I've been doing, I've been doing it quite a lot in the last sort of 6 months or so, is looking at emotional agility.
Right. Okay.
So when we start talking about that bounce back ability, we can perceive that as resilience. It's regaining a form. Yeah. So that's what resilience is being able to roll with the punches and regain that sort of that optimal level again. With emotional agility, what you're doing is you're wanting to do that, but not as quickly as possible. So when you hit the depth, when you drop off, when you go down to that bottom part where you might be complacent and you recognize you're being complacent, rather than racing back up to sort of go, oh, I'm at that complacency level.
Yeah.
I need to be resilient and get back to my optimum level. Now, with emotional agility, what we're doing is we're sitting there and going, right, okay, I'm recognizing the same thing, but why am I here?
Right.
Why is it that I've come to this point? What has caused me to find myself being complacent? Complacent in this case, it might be stressed or have anxiety or whatever it is. So for some people, if you've got that capacity to do it quickly and it serves you well, by all means, go for it. But for some people, they can find that difficult because sometimes they need to know the why. Why is it that I feel this way? Why is it that my productivity has dropped off, or my performance is suboptimal, or why is it that I'm finding I'm being distracted by blah, blah, blah? So rather than trying to hit that as quickly as possible, it's a case of sitting there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying sitting there for days. I'm not saying what we need to do is we need to make ourselves some raffia work chanting mats and make up poems about disappointment and sadness. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, recognizing the why. Why is it that what's caused me to be the way I am at the moment? Because once you recognize that, and if it's a pattern that's repeating itself, then you can recognize it earlier. So you can start seeing yourself on that downward spiral. And before you hit the bottom, you can go, whoa, I can see what's going on here. I recognize this. This is familiar and it's being caused by this. So now rather than hitting the bottom, what you're doing is you're actually shortcutting it so that you haven't got that far to go down. You're taking control, as you said there with your ABC.
Yeah.
So the fundament is exactly the same. It's how you execute it is slightly different. So rather than prioritizing going back up to your optimal level, don't get me wrong, some people will prioritize that and it'll work for them.
Yeah.
But some people, rather than do that and then go up and down and up and down and up and down without actually recognizing what's causing it, Now we're actually at the bottom and we're going, right, why? Why am I down here? What is it that's causing this? Because if I can recognize it and address it, I can minimize the fact that it happened, minimize the risk that it might happen again in the future.
So just for my understanding then,
Yeah.
and everybody else, just as you because we've spoke about a lot there.
Yeah.
But if I then take the first time I feel in this way, so in this example, complacency,
Yeah.
and it's the first time I've thought like that.
Yeah.
First time I thought like that. And I've gone, you know what? This is what I'm going to do about it. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to take a step back.
Yeah.
In the same principle of you measuring the down
Yeah.
and minimizing the down the next time, we're talking about repetitions and going through the same situations again and again.
Potentially, yeah.
Or some similar situations.
Okay.
Not exactly the same, because nothing's ever exactly the same as it was before.
Yeah.
But if we start to look at how that then dips, is that then being in control of how far you drop down each time you maybe go through this situation, you have this feeling, and then starting to understand and reflecting on, actually, I understand why now. And this is now my process. And then eventually that issue or that why doesn't necessarily happen anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you say is that part of the work? Is that the long-term goal for that process?
Yeah. I think the first win out of that position is actually recognizing that it's in your control. It's making yourself accountable, isn't it?
Yeah.
So say this is happening, and it will be so easy for me to sit back and go, well, it's not my fault. It's them over there, or it's them over there, or you as a boss, you've got it in for me, or you've got an agenda, or you're trying to throw me under the bus, or and you're blaming like a deflective.
Yeah.
Or you can turn around and go, it's me, innit? Or maybe you recognise that somebody is as a result of somebody else's actions. But if it's a result of somebody else's actions, what you can do is you can control your response. So that's focusing on your controllables. Yeah. So you recognise that certain person behaves in a certain way or communicates in a certain way because of whatever reason, and it doesn't sit well with you, and it affects your performance or your whatever it is. If you're being complacent because of that, you recognise what it is, and now you take control.
Right.
Saying, okay, so now I'm sort of recognising that this has happened. But by the same measure, we also got to bear in mind that the reason why we behave the way we do and the way that we act we do is because we've learned that behaviour. So it's very difficult to unlearn that behaviour. So when we try and take control, it might not work the first time. It might not work the second time. It might not even work the third time. But we can't just sort of go, well, that didn't work for me, so I'm going to bin it off.
And now I'm going to smash my head against the wall again.
Yeah, what we've got to do is we've got to recognise that we're trying to change a habit, which is a habit, isn't it? We've got these neural pathways that when a certain things happen, we will behave in a certain way. Well, we've got to take control, and sometimes we've got to challenge that.
Yeah.
And we've got to go, well, actually, I'm reacting in a certain way because it's a learned behaviour. I need to unlearn that behaviour or learn a different way. Rewire my brain a little bit of neuroplasticity. But that's for another podcast.
That definitely sounds like another podcast, Spencer. I think we should do this more than one word topics and see if we can get into some more detail, because I like the complacency stuff. Let's get in. Again, anybody who's listening, if you want us to go into a bit of detail around a different word that you guys have maybe want a bit more information on, and see, you know what, is it focus, whatever it is. I don't know what you might be, but put something in the comment on the podcast, listen to what's going on, and then if there's anything that you need some more information on, give us some ideas and let's go for it. But Spencer Locker, again, I love the chat. I love sitting down, loving having a proper chat where you can get some real detail. But yeah, anything else from you, Spencer?
No, all I want to say is thank you, James. Always a pleasure, never a chore.
Right, outside now. And we will see you again on the next T2 podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, listeners. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the T2 Hubcast. If you did, please consider leaving a 5-star review on your favourite podcasting platform. It only takes a minute and your feedback is greatly appreciated. Reviews help other people find the show and learn about the amazing topics we cover. Additionally, please turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And finally, please subscribe or follow the T2 Hubcast if you haven't already. Doing this means that you'll automatically receive new episodes as soon as they're released. Thanks so much for your support.